Welcome to episode 10 of the State Line Fast Break podcast. I'm your host, Kasey Boone. Alongside me, as always, the great Josh Miller.
Here we go. It is playoff time, best time of the year, and we are going to break down the first round of these playoffs and give you our finals pick. Let's get right into it.
Before we dive into the first round of the playoffs, we're going to hit on a quick few news and notes from the NBA season, touch on some of the main storylines. We got to start out with what the Sacramento Kings are doing. It is an embarrassment. One of the most embarrassing play-in performances I've ever seen.
They're a joke.
Really, a game that has such significant substance on the line for them to kind of make a push to the playoffs, which that was made very clear by their ownership they were trying to do with some of the moves they made mid-season. You lose your star point guard, who is the face of your franchise, beloved within that building. The head coach doesn't want to trade him. He gets fired. The GM doesn't want to trade him. He's now fired. And 12 hours after they fire their GM last night after the loss to the Dallas Mavericks, they've got a replacement. What are the Sacramento Kings doing? It's an embarrassment. And I don't really know where they go from here.
Nah, they're a joke. That performance last night was embarrassing. A depleted Dallas Mavericks team who's been through hell and back this season, went out there and dominated them. And, I mean, you got Sabonis in his press conference saying, our problem is we don't have a point guard. Well, you just traded your point guard to Casey's beloved San Antonio Spurs. But, to be honest, they were not very good when he was there. This team, this franchise is dysfunctional. I have not very many good things to say about them. I was honestly eager to watch them, knowing that they could be as dangerous as anyone in sort of a one-game series, as we said last week. And no-showed. I mean, DeRozan and Levine, beloved stars that have been in the league for a long time, capable of scoring a lot of points and winning you games, but just embarrassing. And they've already got their new GM. There's a lot of things that have got to change with them if they're ever going to do anything. And it's another team that obviously doesn't geographically stand up, but this is another team that should be, or would do much better if they were in the Eastern Conference, based on the other teams that are in their state alone that they've had to deal with. And they're a joke. Nothing good to say. Nothing I have to say is good about them.
Yeah, this is a team, like several teams we've talked about throughout the year, they still don't have full control of their draft moving forward, which one of those picks is a pick that goes to the Spurs that they couldn't even get back, and trading away one of the most important players to the history of their franchise. They got 3 massive contracts. They got to figure out what the direction is with Sabonis. He clearly, during his press conference today, said he wanted to be there, but he needed answers and he wanted to be involved. And for an owner that very clearly is making decisions on his own, you've seen Vlade Divac come back into the fray. He's been around the building more often, which is, for a lot of Kings fans and many of their media members, is frowned upon. So he's clearly influencing decisions again. He was a joke of a executive when he was making the roster decisions. What do they do with Sabonis? Is he going to be there? Where could Sabonis end up going? Maybe your Memphis Grizzlies can throw him next to Triple J and see kind of how that looks.
We'll give up Jaren for him all day long.
And you give up Zach Edey, who put together a tremendous performance the other night.
He's got to get much better. That's another issue. He's a great rebounder, but he's got to develop a lot of things in his game.
We could talk about that game, like multiple possessions down the stretch. They are relying on Zach Edey for offense, trying to make him go toe for toe for some of the best scorers in the world between Jimmy Butler and what Curry did in that game. But you look back at the Kings, they've traded for Zach LaVine. Terrible decision in my point. They should have tanked the rest of the year, improved their lottery odds, improved their draft odds, reset the timeline if you're going to trade away your franchise player. DeMar DeRozan, who they paid in the offseason, who now they repaired with Zach LaVine, spent 4 years of it in Chicago, and it didn't produce anything but these play-in
They were
failures.
never good in Chicago together either.
Play-in failures in Chicago, Now they've gotten play-in failures in Sacramento, fired their GM, fired their coach.
Their team, those two guys are always going to be guys who can put up good numbers on bad teams. And there's a difference between those guys and, maybe guys on better teams that don't get as good of numbers. But, this team it's not even almost worth mentioning or talking anymore about them.
Yeah, they are a joke of an organization. And to kind of move past the Kings, talk about another joke of an organization, we had a Nico Harrison press conference the other day where he preached defense wins championships, and they're still in the thick of things, and we'll see if the defense can win championships. But it was one where Tim McMahon from ESPN really pressed Nico on a multitude of different topics. They pressed him on whether he regrets the trade, whether he regrets how he treated the stars of the organization, how he treated the face of the franchise, Luka, how he's treated Dirk Nowitzki since he got there. He has fired 3 prominent executives, and in his words, their contract expired, but he was the one that chose not to bring them back. These are guys that are beloved and well-respected in the league, who had great ties to Dirk Nowitzki, who Nico Harrison forced Cuban out of making any executive decisions after the sale. He wanted him nowhere involved. This is a guy that he had mentioned in that press conference, his contract runs out in 3 years. He's going to do whatever best and plans to be there over the duration of the contract, but has repeatedly said over and over, I'm going to do what's in the best interest of the Dallas Mavericks. Well, that's clearly not the case, because in the best interest of the Dallas Mavericks, you'd keep the guy that's going to keep you in contention for the next 10 years. Instead, you're trying to maximize a 3-year window before you're eventually going to get canned, which he should already be canned, but he cares about the 3-year window that he's got remaining contract, and was drilled over multiple things and had no answer besides defense wins championships.
This situation has gotten so bad that I have almost considered putting all the blame on the owner, and Nico Harrison's job in this is to simply just take the blame. Like, it's gotten so bad I can't even explain. It's hard to even talk about it because the decisions just make no sense, and the way he's gone about it, it's just like, it's almost like he's just taken all the brunt of this, and maybe the owner, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's how bad it's gotten. Like, maybe the owner was like, look, get Luka out of here, and whatever you have to do that. But the issue with that is you should have gotten way more than you did for Luka. And, there's no reason Austin Reeves should not be wearing a Dallas Maverick uniform, along with many other picks. I could go on and on about the things that should have changed in that trade if you were going to trade him. Overall, this is a joke. He's a joke. If these are actually things that he believes in, it's wrong. Yes, their roster is good when healthy, but as of right now, they're nothing that they were, and you're right, they're going to be terrible in the next, soon as, Kyrie's done and Anthony Davis is done. This team has little to no future at this point, and it's going to be a big summer for them. We'll see what they do, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just sit pat and do nothing, and that's not going to get them anything.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Kings. It's a dysfunctional at the top of the organization, and that starts with ownership, like you mentioned. And Adam Silver went on Pat McAfee's show and talked about there's been a lot of discussion on this ownership group being from Las Vegas. We've talked about expansion in the past on this podcast, but would the Mavericks be a team that would move to Las Vegas? And he made it abundantly clear that they were going to be staying in Dallas and that they plan to expand in that city. So it's an interesting future for the Dallas Mavericks. There's Mavericks fans that are calling for him to sell the team just 2 years after acquiring it. So we'll see kind of what transpires there. But I just want to kind of throw back to a few key storylines throughout the year. A team we haven't talked about in a long time, the Philadelphia 76ers, going into this offseason. What are they going to do? We haven't heard a lot on kind of situation with Paul George and Joel Embiid. That's a team that was incredibly disappointing all year. Is going to end up, we'll see. They've got a chance to keep their pick if it lands within the top 5. Could they be a team that gets Cooper Flagg? The Phoenix Suns have fired yet another coach, firing Mike Budenholzer, who will be back on Popovich's staff next year, I predict. So we'll see how that goes. But just a few teams that I wanted to kind of touch on, and then touch on a few players that I was very impressed with this year. Denny Avdia from the Portland Trail Blazers. He's going to be a rising star in this league for years to come. It's going to be interesting to kind of see where that leads. For the Trailblazers, they've just recently re-signed Chauncey Billups to a contract extension. You've got the Pelicans now. Zion Williamson, people were suggesting maybe send him to Chicago, maybe send him to the Timberwolves. A lot of teams could be looking for Zion, as they have fired David Griffin, their president of basketball operations now, so they're now looking for a new general manager. I think that is the
Joe Dumars.
Yeah, and they have hired Joe Dumars. And so we see that was the story that I kind of want to bring up here is we talked about it in the last podcast where teams aren't quick to fire executives in the NBA. Well, now you're kind of seeing that. And these teams are not waiting very long to hire replacements. The Kings hired a replacement real quick. The Pelicans the next day hired Joe Dumars. There was rumors the day they fired David Griffin, and that was coming out. So they are predicting that these moves are going to happen and making kind of situations digress quickly by making these hires. We haven't seen the Denver Nuggets make a move yet, but they're in a similar situation. So I think that's one thing to kind of look forward to as we go into the offseason. New GMs, new coaching staffs, players are going to be on the move more than what you would typically see because of all of the executive moves that we are seeing in the league right now.
Yeah, and they're all happening, like, if you're getting a new GM within 12 hours, this has been done for a long period of time. Going back to, we've seen it in college where we go back a couple weeks, we were talking about some of these college coaches leaving and taking other jobs where they kind of expected to be getting these jobs for weeks, maybe months ahead of time. This is now happening in the league at a higher rate than we had seen previously. I think it just shows like how much money is involved here, that teams like Phoenix are willing to swallow $100 million in paying coaches.
4 straight years, 4 different head coaches for the Phoenix Suns. We'll be looking for a 5th.
Yeah, Matt Ishbia is going to be paying these coaches for a long time. I mean, shout out Mike Budenholzer. He's about to be getting paycheck on paycheck from Milwaukee and Phoenix, and he might end up, if I was him, I'd take a couple years off, enjoy yourself. He doesn't have to coach, and he's going to be making millions of dollars by the month at this point. And but yeah, these things are happening ahead of time, but I think, like I said, it speaks to the money involved here, the potential you can get when your team is relevant, and these teams are making moves quick, and players at the trade deadline moving like crazy. I think this is going to be an insane free agency, even though there's really not a ton of key free agents coming this summer. I mean, there's obviously some that'll stick out, but it's not one of those star-ridden free agent periods. But we're going to see a number of things happen this offseason. But, I mean, the real focus right now is what is going to be going on these next couple weeks with the teams that actually know what they're doing. And so,
yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned, the teams that know what they're doing. I don't know if we can consider this a team that knows what they're doing, but the Denver Nuggets, they are in the thick of things. They landed on the 4th seed. They've got a matchup for the ages. This is going to be, in my opinion, the most anticipated and the most exciting playoff matchup in the first round. We'll see if it lives up to the hype, but you've got star on star on star as the Denver Nuggets take on the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, 4 superstars in the league battling it out in round 1. Do you have a key matchup you're looking for in this particular matchup? Obviously, you're going to say Jokic and Zubac. I mean, this is a big man meat fest we're going to have
Two
down low.
Two of my favorite players.
These guys are going to be battling. They're going to be beat up. It's going to be old school basketball down low, and I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, I'll start with that. The obvious one is, the Zubac Jokic matchup. Zubac has been historically a guy who doesn't really get himself in foul trouble. And if the Nuggets are going to want to win this series, they're going to have to get him in foul trouble, which there's not many players better at getting bigs in foul trouble than Nikola Jokic. He's done it his entire career. I think that should be a part of the game plan for the Nuggets. But, their coach this will be his fourth or fifth game coaching, and now he's going to have to go game plan against one of the best coaches in the league in Ty Lue. I think there's a number of things here. I'm curious to see how they're going to guard Jamal Murray. Ryan Dunn has been a tremendous defender this year. I do think that they're going to start out with Dunn on Murray. And then the Aaron Gordon-Kawhi matchup. I think Aaron Gordon, the second Kawhi isn't on him, has to impose his will physically, like he's very capable of, if the Nuggets are going to want to win. And a guy who you sort of have been high on this year, but you are not high on come postseason throughout his career, is James Harden. But James Harden has a chance to have a great series here because the Nuggets' defense is terrible. And so I think it could come down to him. He usually folds in the postseason. His numbers normally drop, and quite frankly, he's just not a postseason player throughout his career. So I'm curious to see what you're going to think about him because you've been high on him this year, but you're not high on him come playoff time. The Norman Powell has sort of cooled off since coming back from his injury, but he's still their third, maybe I can argue even in the fourth scoring option for them, and that's a great option to have. But will Michael Porter Jr. hit 40 to 45% of his threes? He's going to get them. But this Clippers team is as hot as any team coming into this series, and this is going to be a battle. I could really see it going either way. It's the Nuggets have home court. I don't really think that's going to matter a ton. But the one and only Kawhi Clippers healthy run he's ever had goes back to the bubble. And it was a complete debacle against this Denver Nuggets team as they were up 3-1 and had 15-point leads in each of those games when it 5, 6, and 7. And the Nuggets climbed all the way back and won that series against the Clippers. And they haven't been a trustable playoff team ever since. So, obviously, I think Jokic is going to get his. I think that's to be expected. Can Zubac bother him? We'll see. Zubac had great respect for him in his latest press conference, calling Jokic the best player in the league, just like it's universally recognized at this point. We know what he's going to give us, but you've said it, I've said it, everyone's said it, and you can go back to their championship run. If the Nuggets want to win this series, if they want to win the next series, Jamal Murray is going to have to average 30 a game, and he's capable of doing it. He's got a chip on his shoulder based on his comments here lately, so he's got to go out there and prove it. I cannot wait to watch this series. It's two of my favorite big men in the league getting to battle it out. This is going to be an all-time series, I hope. I hope it goes 7 just from a fan standpoint.
This is going to be an incredible playoff matchup. You've mentioned several of the key players. One guy I'm going to touch on, Norman Powell. In the 4 games, let's bring it back a little bit. In the 4 games that they've played, Denver and Los Angeles have split. They've gone 2-2. One interesting thing to note about the regular season matchups, Kawhi Leonard did not play in a single one of these games. He has not seen the Denver Nuggets this year. Personally, him playing on the floor. Another thing to note, in the 4 regular season games they had, the team that won the rebounding battle won every single game. The first 2 games were won by the Clippers. They won the rebounding battle. The second 2 games were won by the Nuggets. They won the rebounding battle. It's going to be it's going to be the two big guys like we mentioned, being physical. Can they get offensive rebounds? Can they give themselves second chance points? That's going to be a massive aspect of the game, and it's going to come down to Zubac, who a lot of people are having in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation.
Even third team
All-NBA.
All-NBA.
I was about to say, I've seen multiple ballots now that have Zubac as a third team All-NBA player. He has had, and I sent Josh something this week, but this season he has had the most sky hooks in a single season dating back almost 30 years. And so the resurgence that he's had on offense and defensive side of the floor, he's a top, I'd say probably 5 to 6 big man in the league right now. That's going to be a big matchup if he can guard Jokic, obviously an all-time historic offensive player. So that's going to be the big storyline. Back to Norman Powell. In the 4 games this year, 37 points in the first game, a win, 7 threes made. Another win. Norman Powell, 28 points, 5 of 8 from 3. The game they lost, 16 points, 3 of 10 from 3. The other game they lost, 30 points, 4 of 10 from 3. He is going to be a massive factor in this game. Can Christian Brown match the energy and the offensive production that you're getting from Norman Powell? I wouldn't trust him to do it. Christian Brown, I think, is an underrated defender. And so I think that's going to be a really fun matchup to look at. Those are two guys that are not afraid to let it fly. Norman Powell's been great this year, hasn't been talked about enough. Like you said, Jamal Murray, I've said it on this podcast over and over and over again. He's going to be the key for the Nuggets. And they've got a guy who's probably going to end up on the all-defensive team or is going to be in consideration for it. Chris Dunn is a terrific on-ball defender. He's not going to provide the Nuggets or the Clippers a ton offensively, but he is another guy that they've got on that roster that is just dynamite defensively. And they've got a lot of these 3-and-D guys that you can kind of look at.
Bogdanovich, forgot to mention him too. He's
that's another guy. It's just the roster, top to bottom, is very deep. Terrence Mann can come in and give you some minutes. I haven't talked about Kawhi Leonard, who I've said some disparaging things about him in the past once he left. But if you go back and look at his last 15 numbers, and I think Patrick Beverly said on his podcast, he was texting with Kawhi, and he said he's just thankful to get out of the year healthy. Not only is he getting out of the year healthy, but he's playing back at an MVP caliber level the back half of this year. They are the hottest team in the league. They had won 9 of 10 going down the stretch. They've jolted themselves from, it would look like for a stretch there, they were going to be a locked-in playing team sitting at the 7 or 8, got all the way up to the 5. This is a very dangerous team, and we don't even talk about enough. They went through so much adversity this offseason. They said, Paul George, nah, we're good. We don't need you. They go out and get Derrick Jones Jr., who's made a big impact on them. And you just got to be really impressed, and not to mention the coaching battle in this game. We could say Michael Malone had a massive advantage. Not really, because Ty Lue's one of the best playoff coaches. We've seen what he's done in his career. But now you've got Tyronn Lue versus David Edelman, who's coached 3 career games as a head coach, versus a guy that's highly respected, highly touted as one of the best playoff coaches in the last decade. That's a massive advantage, game-to-game strategy, in-game adjustments. How do we put our players in the best position to exceed in the playoffs? You got to love the matchup that they have in the coaching department with Tyronn Lue. They've hired Jeff Van Gundy from the depths of hell to come in and be the defense coordinator for this team. He has done a tremendous job. The Clippers are a fantastic defensive team. And we'll get into it later, but I am very high on what I think the Clippers can do, not only in this series, but in this playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people throughout the media are saying they're the second best team in the West right now.
I mean, there's been a lot of people that have started to get on the train that I've been preaching for the last 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, this train all was dependent on health.
Yep,
I mean,
you're right.
And as soon as they got health, they're healthy at the right time, and there's more things going for the Clippers right now than there is the Nuggets. There is no one can argue that. The only hope I have as a Jokic fan is that hopefully Jamal Murray can play himself back into shape here. He's only played 2 or 3 games towards the end, and before he didn't do much in those games. He hit a couple clutch shots against my Grizzlies, and then against the Rockets he played pretty bad, which they ended up still blowing the Rockets out, who played their starters that game. But if I'm just going to go out on a limb, the Nuggets opened up as favorites, and that quickly changed. The Clippers are favored to win this series, but I'm going to slide with the Nuggets in 7, but I don't say it with a ton of confidence, but I'm going to pick them. They have the best player in the series, and I'm just leaning on maybe Harden collapses, has a couple games where he just no-shows in, and shots just fall like crazy for the Nuggets is the only way that they're going to win this series. But it can happen. I mean, they've done it before. I'm going to take the Nuggets in 7. They don't have the coaching battle. They don't have the depth battle. The only thing they have going for them is they have the best player in the series. But if you go through 2, 3, 4, you could argue that the Clippers have much better pieces from top to bottom to go on. So we'll see. It's going to be a chess match. I give Tyronn Lue the far edge as far as coaching. I've been high on him for a long time. So, like I said, don't love it, but I'm going to take the Nuggets more so out of my heart for Jokic. I don't want to see him go out in the first round, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be a big knock against him if he does go out to this Clippers team, because if they go on and play the Thunder, I mean, that's going to be a very scary series for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, what you said, it's going down to the best player in the world versus a coaching advantage, a depth advantage, and the way that they're playing right now kind of advantage. I'm going to take the Clippers, and I'm taking them to do it in 6 games. I just think there's so much turmoil going on right now for the Nuggets. They don't really know where they stand. Again, Murray, we don't know if he's really truly healthy or they're just trying to get him back out there because they're wanting to make this run. I trust everything that's going on with the Clippers right now. The thing about it is, unlike all the other playoff performances that James Harden's had to be a part of, he does not have to be the guy because they've got a healthy Kawhi Leonard right now. They've got guys surrounding him that are going to provide scoring relief. You got Norman Powell, like I mentioned. You got Zubac, who's taken a step up on the offensive game. Like, they are actively looking for Zubac to score the ball now. So that's definitely a different dynamic they've had. I'm going to take the Clippers, and I'm going to take them to do it in 6 games. We'll see. I mean, it's gonna be a long series. I could easily see this going 7. I can easily see the Denver Nuggets playoff pedigree coming out and getting them this win. But again, I'm really looking forward to this matchup in the first game, 3:30 Saturday. It's going to be tremendous watch. But now we got to move on and talk about somebody that I really don't want to talk about, but it's part of it. The Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is your 3-seed versus 6-seed matchup out in the Western Conference. Again, just like the last matchup, these two teams split 2-2 in the regular season. Several of these games came really early where these teams were kind of trying to figure out. They've had new pieces where they kind of fit in. 3 of them came within the first 25 games of the year where the Lakers were still hovering around 500. They didn't have Luka Doncic yet. Just had no clue what the future, and it looked really bleak for the Lakers at this point in the season. But now they've got Luka Doncic, and that's going to be a whole other element to kind of look at when you're looking into this. In the one game that Luka did play in this matchup during the regular season, the Lakers did win it 111-102. Luka had 21 points, 13 rebounds. And so that's really, in my opinion, that's going to be the key of the series. Who's the bigger star? Is it going to be Luka Doncic? Is it going to be Anthony Edwards? Who's going to take over this series? LeBron James versus, this sounds really weird, but it's going to be LeBron James versus Julius Randle as a key matchup to look forward to. LeBron, obviously, we know his playoff pedigree. There's some demons we talk about, James Harden. There's some playoff demons that Julius Randle has to kind of battle through here. And it's going to be tested early against either Hachimura or LeBron.
He's a career 34% from the field in the playoffs and a staggering 28% from three in the playoffs, and he's only given you 17 a game in his career postseason.
Yeah, and what you can you can kind of look at this game and the one that Luka played in. Neither Gobert nor Julius Randle actually played in this game. So really, we don't have a lot of data we can take from the 4 games that these two teams played in the regular season. And like you said, it has to be incredibly concerning for Minnesota. You have Julius Randle, who's not typically a playoff performer. You have Rudy Gobert, who the Lakers are going to go. There's no doubt about it. The Lakers are going to go small, and everybody talks about, Minnesota can physically impose their will on this team. We've seen it time and time again. It doesn't matter if he was on Utah. It doesn't matter if he's on Minnesota. Rudy Gobert will be played off the floor in this series, strictly because he's just not going to be able to keep up with whoever the Lakers send out there as the 5, whether it's LeBron they throw out at the 5, whether it's Hachimura. They could even throw out Dorian Finney-Smith. Rudy Gobert is going to be played off the series. Minnesota probably does not want to go small and match this team, but they're probably going to have to slide Randle down to the 5, Jaden McDaniels, or they can even throw in Naz Reid, who I think that's going to be, when you have Rudy Gobert being played off the floor, can Naz Reid come in and do what he did in several games throughout the year, provide a scoring punch? And what's interesting to me about Naz Reid is it's a contract year. He's coming up. He's going to be a free agent. There's times where he kind of just looks disinterested over on the sideline. He's standing away from teammates. Do you have the buy-in from this guy that's going to be able to get you to contribute in this series? That's going to be an interesting kind of matchup to look at.
Yeah, a lot to unpack in this series. It's going to be another must-see series in this Western Conference. There's not much to go off of, but there is something to go off of, and that is what Luka Doncic did to this Minnesota Timberwolves team last year. Beat them in 5 games when they weren't even favored to win that series, and Timberwolves were as hot as ever, beating the Nuggets last year. Luka Doncic completely crushed their dreams last year because there's not a single person on this Timberwolves team, as good as they are defensively, there's not a single person on this team who can match up with Luka Doncic, who has the second highest point per game average in playoff history, only behind Michael Jordan. And I see Anthony Edwards having a great series. I really do. He's also another playoff riser, but I don't think it will be enough. He's going to will them. I think he averages 35 to 40 in this series. He's going to have to, and I think he's going to take a lot of shots. I think he's going to make a lot of shots. I'm not sure how much help he's going to get, and I just think the Lakers, although they have their defensive struggles, I think they're going to let Anthony Edwards sort of get his and then sort of see if these other guys can beat him. And Mike Conley, Memphis Grizzly legend, I'm not so sure how much he's going to be able to play in this series given the matchups, because if you just look at the starting lineup, I mean, who do you put Conley on? Because you're going to have to go maybe McDaniels on Luka. You're going to put Anthony Edwards on Reeves. You're going to put Randle on LeBron, Gobert on Hayes. That leaves Rui Hachimura with Mike Conley. He will punish him. Rui Hachimura is very capable of dropping a 30-point game. And so I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the key guy in this matchup, in this series. He's going to have to play big minutes, and honestly, he's a capable player. He's very good for this team. Definitely a capable starter for a lot of teams who played good in last postseason. He's a 3-and-D guy who is going to have to play his best series of his career if they're going to win this. And you mentioned Naz Reid. He's going to have to hit a lot of threes in this series to keep up with how many threes that, LeBron's going to get up, Finney-Smith's going to get up. Some of these guys that the Lakers are going to take a ton of threes. They're going to make threes. And I just don't think the Timberwolves match up with the Lakers They are bigger than the Lakers when it comes to a back the center position with Reed and Gobert. Naz Reid isn't a guy who's going to post you up and bully you down low. He's going to sit on the perimeter. Who's going to get the ball down to Rudy Gobert, who doesn't even have a quality post move in his game? I mean, I think it comes down to if Randall can get he's had a much better season than I expected. I'll be the first to say it. I've never been high on Julius Randle his entire career. He's got a chance to prove me wrong here. But I mentioned his numbers earlier. 34% from the field, 28% from three in his postseason career. And it's not a very long number, or a big number of games in his playoff career. He hasn't gotten there very much. I think Austin Reeves is going to give you at least 20 to 30 points a game in this series. And I think we know what we're going to get from LeBron. I mean, he's going to give you 25, 7 and 7. You can count on that. And Luka Doncic, there's too much on offense. The defense, I see these games being high scoring. But I'm going to take the Lakers in 6. And I honestly really thought about it in 5. But I do think Anthony Edwards wills them to 2 victories and has a tremendous series, and we leave this series with him being pretty frustrated and based on how good he's going to play, and then it's going to be sort of blaming everyone else, and I do think that'll be fair, and we'll head into another Minnesota offseason where they're going to make another move. They've been very aggressive in the markets the past couple of years. I think that continues. Gobert has crumbled every postseason. We've seen it. He can be good defensively, but the Lakers aren't going to be taking a lot of layups. They're going to be taking a lot of threes. They want Gobert on the perimeter, though. So it's going to be a great series to see. You got the stars everywhere. I mean, Anthony Edwards has got a chance here to really, really help out his legacy at a young age if he can go and beat these guys, because they're the underwhelming underdog from my understanding. But like I said, I'll give them 2 games, and I'll take the Lakers in 6.
Yeah, this is very intriguing. You hit on a lot of things to talk about, and I'm very intrigued by the guards that Minnesota's going to throw out there. You mentioned Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That's what I was going to bring up, the dynamic of how they're going to manage those minutes. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's actually been playing really good ball kind of down the stretch for Minnesota. He's been kind of a surprise impact player from them. They've gotten some good minutes here late in the year from Terrence Shannon Jr. He's kind of given them a little bit of spark plug. And then you've still got DiVincenzo in this roster that, I mean, was a very impactful player for the Knicks that hasn't gotten a lot of buzz this year in Minnesota. How do they manage those 4 guards, their minutes? Obviously, we know Ant should be playing at least 35 minutes a game in the series, if not more, maybe even 37, 38, almost 40. That's going to be, it's like you said, it's going to be Ant that's going to have to wield them to win. You're going to have to get production from the big guy position. That's where your advantage is at. You're going to have to be able to play Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid on the floor and have them impact the game. Size is going to be the advantage. You need to lean into it. You're going to have McDaniels who you can kind of throw. Anthony Edwards is not a terrible defender. You actually would kind of like to throw him on Luka multiple times, in my opinion, just because he's going to rattle him. He's going to talk trash. He's going to get Luka get in Luka's head. I think that's a fun dynamic of Chris Finch wants to kind of throw.
What you don't want to do, though, is get in Luka's head.
I don't know. In a new place like this, he still sometimes doesn't look super comfortable in a Lakers uniform. Because as much as you say that about Luka Doncic, I think it does the same thing for Anthony Edwards. Like, he steps up to the moment. He's a playoff performer. I think he's going to be there for the moment. Early on, when I was kind of just looking at this, and a lot of it's probably biased, I did have Minnesota winning this series.
Of course you did.
I still think that this is a series that goes 7. This is the one that's back and forth for me. I'm not sold on the roster. It's 3 guys for the Lakers, and if they have an off shooting night in any way, shape, or form, they don't really have many ways to beat you offensively other than knocking down shots. And it's going to come down to, Is Austin Reeves hitting his shots? How efficient is Luka Doncic playing? That's going to be the big thing for the Lakers. They don't get a whole lot of offensive production from Smith, Vanderbilt, any of these guys.
Take the Wolves then.
When I was looking at this earlier and just kind of diving into it, I like a lot of the pieces that the Wolves have. I'm a big Jaden McDaniels fan. I love the way Anthony Edwards plays ball. Naz Reid, future Spur, hopefully. I think Naz Reid's going to have a big series, but
You want the Wolves. Take the Wolves. And
I'll take this going 7. I'll take the Lakers. The Lakers are favored in this series. They're a minus 186 to win this series. Wolves at plus 156. I'm going to take the Lakers to win in 7. I don't like it. Would rather pick the Wolves, but I'll use my head here to try to be right. Like you said, Luka Doncic, he's an all-time playoff performer. He's going to live up to the moment. Just don't trust the Lakers roster. I don't think it's very good top to bottom. And so that's kind of what's drawing me back here, because there's a lot of pieces on the Wolves roster if they can put it together that I like. But again, it's going to come down to who performs in the playoffs for the Wolves. And if they're there to play, they've got a good shot. If not, then I could see the Lakers running away with the series in 5 or 6 games, like you mentioned. But I'm going to take the Lakers in 7. And another interesting game series that we're going to be looking into here is another Western Conference game. You've got the Warriors and the Rockets. This is a series where a 7 seed is now favored to beat a 2 seed, which doesn't happen very often. It speaks to just the veteran experience that the Warriors have. The Rockets are very young and experienced. They have a lot of guys that we think are going to be good performers in the playoffs, but we just haven't seen it. And so that's the tale of the story. You've got the veteran, experienced, grizzled Golden State Warriors versus the young, up-and-coming, hard-nosed, we're playing our tails off every single possession Houston Rockets. This is going to be a dynamic series. You got Amin Thompson. Jalen Green, we'll see kind of how much they want to play Jalen Green. He's kind of been very inconsistent in terms of minutes and rotation this year. Şengün. It's a very talented roster for the Rockets. They've got 0 playoff experience, and we just saw Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler just go vintage on your Memphis Grizzlies the other night. An explosive performance where you see why people are picking Golden State in this series.
Yeah, this one was tough to pick. I definitely think the Warriors got the matchup they wanted to get to this 7 spot.
I talked about it multiple times. The 7 was somewhere you wanted to get because Houston is viewed as vulnerable.
Yeah, I think the 3 and the 7 were the 2 best spots to get here, and it ended up being to the teams we've talked about most this year, the Lakers and the Warriors. So they're going to match up with the Rockets. Very interesting series. Obviously Steph Curry's the best player in this series. I can argue Jimmy Butler's the second best player in this series. Him and Şengün. Şengün's going to he's going to have to turn into a playoff riser if this team wants to go where they're wanting to go. He's going to have to be one of those guys like a Luka, like a Edwards, like a Jokic, like some of these guys who get to the playoffs and just improve their game dramatically if they're going to want to win this series, given their inconsistent half-court offense. Their defense, obviously, is very good. They're going to bother the Warriors in a lot of different ways. And Ime Udoka, he's played the Warriors in the playoffs before, played them in the finals, so he obviously understands what sort of the game plan should be, and they've given them some issues, especially the last time they played in the regular season. I just think there's so much more that the Rockets need to go for them than the Warriors. I think Jimmy Butler showed it the past 2-3 games. Really the whole time he's been there, but his numbers have gotten much better the last couple of games. He's played great against us. Even against the Clippers, the game they lost at the end of the season, he played very well. I think he's the X factor in this series. He's playoff Jimmy for a reason. And I was a little skeptical about if we were going to get a playoff Jimmy, but given the past couple games, I'm all back in on expecting to see a playoff Jimmy here, and they're going to need it. And I think that they go on the road and they steal a game 1 and set the tone for this series. They're going to need big-time production. A weird storyline of brewing here is Jonathan Kuminga just not playing. DNPs, very interesting. Steve Kerr, another, you know, interesting decision that could end up working out. Didn't play Jason Tatum in the Olympics, and now he's catching some slack for not playing Kuminga. Will they use him this series? I'd argue that they might need him. Although they might just trust they're going with some defensive lineups with Gary Payton the second and Draymond, a bunch of guys who just get open threes who just simply just don't take them. And they're going to depend on Curry a lot. Amin Thompson's going to give Curry a lot of problems. I think there's a couple games here where Curry no-shows in. But I think throughout a 7-game series, it's not going to happen 4 times. So I think, Curry has 2-3 bad games where you're just like, man, Curry just didn't do much today. And that speaks to how good Amin Thompson is defensively, how good this team is defensively. I think we're going to see some really flashy plays out of Amin Thompson. But I don't trust Dylan Brooks' offensive game come playoff time. I could see him and Draymond getting into a fight game 1, to be quite honest. And I definitely see that happening at some point. Technical fouls are going to be at a premium here. I'm going to take the Warriors in 6. And people are going to – I do think some people will take the Rockets, but – You mentioned the 7 seed is favored over the 2 seed here, and a lot of people saw this coming. But the Rockets have a chance to go out there and prove me wrong, just like they've proved almost everyone wrong the entire year. They have a chance to go do it. And they're going to get a heavyweight battle here in round 1 against a championship-like organization like the Warriors. But a lot of moving factors in this game. I'm going to take the Warriors in 6.
Yeah, you mentioned that's who I wanted to highlight. Jonathan Kuminga was a DNP in their game against the Clippers that decided where they were going to end up in the playoffs. Seeding-wise, it's a very interesting decision. And over the course of the year, obviously he had that injury, kind of that mid-stretch of the year, it caused him to miss 20 or 30 games. And that was when they started to pick up Jimmy Butler and started to kind of go on this run. And so I think that's heavily influenced Steve Kerr's decision. He, since returning from the injury, has not played over 27 minutes one time. And that was in a loss against the Nuggets where he didn't really provide a whole lot for him. And so that's going to be an X factor. Will he be on the court? Will he be impactful? Moses Moody, another guy that they drafted.
They've been dependent on him a lot here lately.
He's been very influential in kind of the stretch down the road for them. What is he going to provide you? A guy that was spent all off seasons in trade rumors. What are they going to do? Where is he going to be? Pajemski, he is a guy they have to have him making shots. Had a terrible start to the year. Everybody was like, second year slump. Do they trade him at the deadline? They've stuck with him, and he's had a very impressive second half of the season. It is noted they played 5 games this year. Golden State won 3 of them. They split the 2 games that Jimmy Butler actually played in, was a part of that roster. Most recently was a game that Houston knocked off Golden State 106-96, where it's just a balanced night. You got a big scoring night out of Dylan Brooks, and so it's going to be very interesting how the Rockets decide to kind of balance their roster, because once again, this is a matchup of a big physical roster in Houston versus a team that's going to go small. Draymond is going to play the center, the 5 position in this series, probably 80% of the time, maybe even 90% of the time. They'll bring in Looney and they'll bring in Post.
I can hit some threes, man.
To kind of just spot minutes, but these guys are not guys that are going to play important roles. It's going to be Draymond at the 5, majority of the series, and the Rockets are massive. It's Şengün, it's Jabari Smith, it's Eason, it's Steven Adams. This is a big physical roster, not to mention how physical and demanding Amin Thompson is on both sides of the floor, a guy that we both had on our all-defensive team. Fred VanVleet, an experienced guard who has playoff pedigree, versus this Golden State Warriors team when he was a part of the the Raptors championship team. So this is an extremely intriguing matchup, and to me, this game, again, I don't like doing this, but a first-round matchup in the Western Conference, I'm picking it to go 7 games. I think it's going to be back and forth, like you mentioned. Ben Thompson's going to spend the majority of his time guarding Stephen Curry. Will Stephen Curry disappear in a few games, like you said? I don't know. I think you're going to see that was the game where Steph Curry had 3 points with Ben Thompson guarding him late in the year, and that really raised a lot of concerns for people about what this Golden State team can do. And now that they're matched up with this Rockets team, I trust that Steve Kerr's going to be able to get Steph Curry shots in the playoffs, and Curry's going to be running all over the court. He's going to find a way to score, but what I saw out of Jimmy Butler down the stretch, and particularly in that Grizzlies game, this is why they traded for him, to be a impactful player, a go-to player, somebody that can take over games this time of year. It's playoff Jimmy for a reason. He's the only player that's ever taken a team from the play-in all the way to the NBA Finals when he did it with Miami. I'm picking Golden State to win this in 7. I think too much experience on this roster. The Rockets are still young. They've still got a lot to learn. I still don't know what they're going to do with Jalen Green. What is his future there? We got Reed Shepherd, who they drafted 3rd overall. They could have had a guy like Steph Castle. Could you imagine Castle on this roster? Another athletic freak next to Ben Thompson. But they passed on him to take Reed Shepherd because they felt like they needed more scoring, more shooting on this roster. He has provided them nothing.
He doesn't even play. He gets in and gets some buckets, but he gets attacked defensively.
Yeah, he has played no impact on this team whatsoever. I don't expect him to play at all in this series, to be honest with you. So I'm picking Golden State in 7. I think Jimmy Butler's going to be a massive part of why they win this series. We'll see how the big guys for the Rockets handle the small ball lineup. I think that Draymond's big and physical enough. He's not somebody that's super athletic and is going to attack anybody off the rim, so I think the Rockets are going to be able to be comfortable playing big, unlike the Timberwolves against the Lakers. So I think you're going to see the Rockets just trust their size and go to it, and it's going to be massive in their game plan. We're just going to try to out-physical and impose our will. They're going to play hard for every single moment of the series. Would not surprise me if these young Bucks figure out a way to win it. But I will take the experience. I'll take Steph Curry. I'll take Jimmy Butler to win this game. And like you said, they could win game 1. But I'm going to take them to win the series. So that kind of... Look, we can touch on Thunder all we want, but I think we want to hold off on that till the next episode. We both believe that they're going to be a sweep here in the Western Conference. So they're likely going to see... Either for me it's the Clippers or for you it's the Nuggets, and I can't wait to talk about that as we get later down the line in the playoffs. But there's a lot to look forward to in the Eastern Conference as well, as we've got a very pivotal series. The Bucks and Pacers, they've seen each other before, and now we've got the potential that Damian Lillard reportedly cleared from his deep vein thrombosis, which is a blood clotting issue, which I don't think anybody expected him back, because we have not seen an instance like this in NBA history where somebody has occurred a blood clot, especially this late in the year, and be able to come back and play on it. They have cleared him for basketball activity. They've ruled him out for game 1, but they believe he's going to be back in this series. So for me, it changes a lot. I mean, he is a incredible player. We've seen him make big shot after big shot after big shot. The Pacers are going to have their hands full now, knowing that they're going to have to prepare to play against Damian Lillard, and I talked about it, and we both talked about it. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the way he's played in the last 20 games. The Bucks are a very dangerous and scary team in the playoffs if you've got Giannis playing the way he was. We saw the matchup in the past where Giannis got hurt and the Pacers were able to take advantage of it. But out of all the series in the first round across both conferences, this is the one that has the most bad blood in it. These are teams that see each other very, very regularly in the regular season. They have seen each other in the past in the playoffs, which not many of these other teams can say they have. This one is going to be, I think it's going to be a very dirty series, a very nasty series. We're going to see Doc Rivers against Rick Carlisle. It's going to be a pretty intriguing coaching matchup. They're very long-tenured NBA head coaches who have had success at multiple different stops. It's going to be something to look forward to. Tyrese Halliburton playing great basketball. Siakam, they're kind of adapting to what this roster is going to look like, coming off an Eastern Conference appearance just last season. So this one is a very fun matchup, and I think it just got a whole lot more interesting with the addition of Damian Lillard.
Yeah, I think the Milwaukee Bucks are going to look to seek their revenge from a year ago where they were missing Giannis and then Damian Lillard got injured inside of that series. Giannis has been on a tear lately, and they are 3-1 against the Pacers this year, and Giannis's numbers 37, 10, and 11, 30, 12, and 5, 19, 17, and 7, 34, 10, and 7. There's not a person maybe in the league that can match up with Giannis, but especially against not a very good defensive team in the Pacers, will be able to do anything with Giannis. I do think this series will be important for, some of the wing guys for the Bucks, just because the Pacers their team is nothing but guards and wings. I don't really trust Miles Turner, especially really playoff time. I think Brook Lopez will take the edge in that, and there won't be a lot of twos taken in this series other than Giannis himself. But I think Giannis will be far too much, and I don't see him going out in the first round. I think he's going to get everything he can out of this team in this playoffs, and I think that'll stop in the second round, as I'm going to take the Bucks in 6 in this series, and I think Giannis is going to go just have an unbelievable all-time series here statistically, and I think he's going to get some good defensive plays as well. I mean, the only win that the Pacers had against the Bucks this year was that crazy 4-point play game winner from Tyrese Halliburton. So, could have been a series sweep. But I think last year's matchup is going to play a role in this. Bobby Portis is back too. Let's not forget about Bobby Portis. He was suspended 25 games. I mean, he's been a part of the championship team with the Bucks before, and I mentioned the Pacers aren't a very necessarily big team. I think Bobby Portis could really get a lot of plays down low, a really nice energy guy to have, and now you potentially are getting a Dame Lillard back. I don't think that they even I don't think it's going to matter, in my opinion. I had the Bucks in 6 before the news today about Damian Lillard broke, and I'm going to stick with Bucks in 6. But I do give respect to the Pacers. I didn't think that they were good enough to make it to the conference finals last year, so I'll give them some credit. I mean, I give them 2 games that their guys are going to hit shots. Halliburton's going to get hot, but some of those guards they have are very capable scorers, but there's just not enough defenders on this Pacers team, and the Bucks haven't been great defensively either. Don't get me wrong. I think these are another high scoring series, but I think Giannis simply isn't going to let his team lose to the Pacers, and the Bucks haven't been out of the first round in a while. I think it's time that he gets them to the second round, and the Pacers have not as many things going for them. They've had a good season sitting in the 4 seed. But like I said, nobody is going to be able to stop Giannis. He might average 35, 10, and 10 this series. Who knows? And he's going to shoot a tremendous percentage. So I'm going to take the Bucks in 6, and I honestly could see it maybe in 5. But I'll stick with 6.
Yeah, before this Dame news, I was on the other side of the fence. I think the Pacers are very talented. I love the way Siakam and Halliburton bounce off each other. I'm actually a massive Miles Turner fan. I'm a big fan of the way he impacts the game. Just super inconsistent shooting the ball, and there's some shots that he takes that I'm like, why are we 3 steps past the 3-point line taking this jacked up 3 right now? But I'm a big fan of the way Miles Turner plays defensively. He's long, he's lengthy, he's athletic. He affects the shot at the rim, but this Dame news really kind of changes the way I view this series, and I'm taking the Bucks in 6 as well. I think I've talked about it for multiple weeks now. Giannis Antetokounmpo should have had more love in MVP voting. He has been absolutely incredible. He's playing his best basketball at the right time, too. And we've seen him do this in playoff series where he just takes over, and it doesn't matter who's in front of him. He's going to run through them. He's going to get to the rim. And like you mentioned, Bucks are 3-1 against the Pacers this year. And if we recall, it was one of the greatest shots of the entire season that Tyrese Halliburton hit. That was the reason that the Pacers have their one win. I will say in a playoff-like atmosphere, having gone to multiple games in Gainbridge Fieldhouse where the Pacers play ball, that is an electric basketball atmosphere in the NBA. You don't see a whole lot like it. The old Oracle Arena that Golden State used to play in used to get a lot of credit for being loud and affecting the game. Like the Pacers fans, Hoosier fans, that's a basketball state. They love the Pacers, and it's a tough environment. And we saw when they were making game winners in the playoffs last year just how rowdy and electric that place is to watch a game, and it definitely gives that team juice, and they play like it. They're a fast-paced offense. They're up and down the court. They take a ton of threes. Neesmith, Nembhard, Mathurin, Ben Shepherd. What can they get out of those four guards? They're going to have to take a lot of threes. They're going to have to make a lot of threes. Like you said with the Bucks, they're going to be big and physical and imposing. Brook Lopez is a thumper down low. He does similar things to what Zubac does, but not maybe to the same level. Giannis, there's nobody in the world that can stop him. He's one of the most unique players that has ever played this game. He gets going downhill at the lane. Good luck. I mean, we saw Wembanyama block him. He was going downhill back-to-back possessions earlier this year, but he's also a freak. But let's talk about the playoff teams. Pat Connaughton, can they get anything from him?
Dog.
Gary Trent Jr., who sneaky acquisition for them has been.
He's been very good.
Very good. We'll see what they can get out of him.
Torian Prince also. Those guys are going to be big against some of these wings with the Pacers.
Yeah, they got deep wing rotations. I don't think either of us have ever talked about this guy on the podcast, but Kyle Kuzma, can they get anything from him? He's going to have to be efficient. Just don't negatively affect the game. It's going to be very interesting to see a Milwaukee Bucks playoff run where they don't have can't think of his name right now, but who did they trade away to get Kuzma? Anyways, but Kuzma going in, he's going to be a very impact key player for the Bucks if they want to go
Chris
on.
Middleton.
Yeah, there it is. I knew it was a Chris. I couldn't think of the last one. But Chris Middleton has been on this roster, and one of the most tenured Bucks. They uproot him, trade him for Kyle Kuzma, trying to shed money to get under the apron at the deadline. Kyle Kuzma really hasn't been super noteworthy or in the media, which is probably a good thing considering he's always in the media. So just go out there, play basketball. Don't negatively infect the game. And I've got the Bucks clearing house, winning this in 6. I love that Dame's going to be able to come back and play on this. He's an electric performer, big shot taker, big shot maker. So that is kind of how I see that series rolling. And the next series I think is going to be a really fun one. You got one of the teams I've been talking up all year versus a player that I've been talking up all year. The Knicks and the Pistons. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Brunson. The Knicks, what can they do in this playoff run? They're going to have a tough matchup. They're going to have to play Boston in the second round if they win this. Jobs are going to be on the line. Thibodeau's coaching for his job. Karl-Anthony Towns has a lot of doubters to prove wrong. Obviously, they've made acquisitions. They've gone out and got OG Anunoby. They've got Mikal Bridges. A lot is on the line for the New York Knicks. They have a ton to lose in this series versus a team that was expected to win 20 games maybe all year, who have surprised teams and made it to the playoffs. The Detroit Pistons are back. Asor Thompson, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren. It's a fun team to watch. They're looking to spoil the New York Knicks season and probably cost Tom Thibodeau his job if they were to lose this. Very, very intriguing matchup in the Eastern Conference and probably sets them up for a date against the Boston Celtics in round 2.
Yeah, the Knicks have to win this series. Out of every one of these rounds, other than the ones that are just completely expected, overwhelming, OKC, Cleveland, and Boston, all the remaining series, the Knicks need to win this series more than any of the other ones. And It's going to be a physical matchup, especially with the way Detroit plays, very physical, and we're going to see technicals. We're going to see fights in this series, potentially. That's how Detroit's played all year. But I think the guy in this series, other than some of the main expected ones, is OG Anunoby, who really towards the end of the year, from I've noted March 28th to April 6th, had a really, really nice stretch of almost giving you 25 a game, multiple 30-point outings. And, I mean, he's been a guy who's shown up in the playoffs before. They're going to need it again. He had a decent playoff run last year before getting injured. Cade Cunningham, we'll see how he does in the playoffs. I'm not as much worried about him. I do think his teammates aren't going to show up in this series, and I think his assist numbers will be slightly down, and he's going to have to just take over scoring. But a guy who I love and had an all-time playoff run last year, I think he's going to get back into that groove, is Jalen Brunson. And if these games get close towards the end, there's no doubt I'm taking the Knicks. And I think this is going to be, most of these games are going to come down to the very end. And that's where Jalen Brunson loves to be. He's most comfortable in those moments. So I'm curious to see who they put on Jalen Brunson. And one guy I do want to point out who deserves credit, and Malik Beasley has been very good. You know, I could potentially see his shot maybe not fall quite as much in a series like this. I do think the Pistons are deeper, mainly because of a guy in Malik Beasley and how good he's played this year. But I'm going to take the Knicks in 5. And it's not necessarily I'm trying to say the Pistons aren't good. I do think they're way ahead of schedule, and they've been much better than I expected them to be this year. And I'm not going to necessarily say it's a bad thing. I think it's going to be great for a guy in Cade Cunningham to get some of these reps. But the Knicks need this series. I do trust Tom Thibodeau to, set some sort of game plan defensively against this Cade Cunningham-led offense. But I'll take the Knicks in 5. I'm not a big fan of Karl Anthony Towns, especially come playoff time. We'll see how good he'll be in that Jalen Duren matchup. And we'll throw Isaiah Stewart at him too. So we'll see how that goes. But it's going to come down to who's going to hit those clutch shots when the game gets tight at the end. And I'm going to side with my guy, your guy, Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, I love the point guard matchup in this game. Two guys that I would love to see on the Spurs one day. But Cunningham, Brunson, it's going to be a flamethrower fest from these two. They are going to make bucket after bucket after bucket. I want to see Cade Cunningham, and I'm with you. Knicks in 5, but even in a defeat like this, I want to see Cade Cunningham go out and be the star of this series, and I think he can do it. Like you said, the Pistons roster, if this was a team in the Western Conference, they are probably looking about where the Spurs and Suns are right now, sitting at 35 wins instead of 45. But it's a fun story. Ron Holland is a dog. He's going to get after you. Isaiah Stewart, he doesn't do anything on the floor except fight. Electric. It's bad boy Pistons with those two. Those are two hotheads that get after you. Same with Jalen Duren. In the last game that they played, 3 games left in the regular season, when they played the Knicks and got a 115-106 win with everybody playing, Durham put up 18 and 13, was just all over the floor. Detroit's actually 3-1 on the year against the Knicks, and the only game that the Knicks won was within the first 5 games of the year. So do with that what you will, but the Knicks have been kind of banged up. They've either had Brunson out, they've either had Bridges out, they've either had Anunoby out. With all of those guys on the floor, this is why they made all those acquisitions. This is why they invested the picks. This is why you invested the money in Brunson, invested the money in Bridges, is for this time of year. And Karl Towns has had his best year of his career, in my opinion. What is he going to do now that it matters when they're playing for something? It's going to be very telling early on to see the demeanor of the Knicks. The Garden's going to be electric because there is so much hope. I'm going to be looking forward to this Knicks versus Celtics series both Gardens are going to be. I talked about Gamebridge and Oracle a little bit. These are two environments that are unmatched in sports, almost in any sport, especially in the game of basketball. The TD Garden in Boston and the Garden in New York. That's going to be an incredibly fun series, and obviously we'll dive into that later. I mean, I don't want to move past things too quickly, but we both believe that the Knicks have to get this series win. They will get this series win. There's so much more talent on this Knicks roster. I think they win it in 5 games, but I'm going to predict, as I've said on this podcast, probably all 10 episodes, Cade Cunningham is one of the best players in the world, one of the top 10 players in the world right now, and he's going to show it in this series. He showed it when they played the Knicks just a few days ago when he put up 36 and 8. He's going to have an incredible series, and I think the Knicks are going to get it done in 5. And that kind of leads us to transition. We're going to give a full outlook of our playoff picture. Obviously, it's the same thing with the Thunder. We're not going to dive too much on the Celtics or the Cavs. We both think they're going to take care of their series pretty comfortably. I think we'll see the Cavs probably sweep, and Orlando can kind of give Boston some fits. I think they're going to play them really hard, really physical, but I think it's going to be a Boston sweep. Maybe they could steal a game in Orlando, but not too much to touch on there.
Yeah, I've also got sweeps with the Thunder. I've got a Cleveland sweep, and I've got a sweep with the Celtics. And, yeah, potentially 5. Maybe Paulo and Franz go crazy in one game. But I'll take sweeps across the board with Oklahoma City, Cleveland, and Boston.
But we're not going to give too much analysis into this, but we are going to give our full playoff predictions before the first round kicks off on Saturday. We're going to go series by series, just pick it straight across the board, and we are going to post these results, and we'd love to see you comment and give us your full predictions. You can find us on any social media. Obviously, wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at the State Line Fast Break Pod. We'll post our graphics, but I think it is time to go down the line, and we'll start in the Western Conference. We already talked about it. I've got the Thunder. I've got the Clippers over the Nuggets in 6. I've got the Lakers over the Timberwolves in 7. And I've got the Warriors over the Rockets in 6. So where do you kind of stand? Obviously, we've already touched on it, but you can go through your Western Conference really quickly.
Yeah, I got the Thunder sweeping. I'll take the Nuggets in 7. So we'll see a Thunder-Nuggets second round. I got the Lakers in 6, Warriors in 6 for another LeBron-Steph second round. And in the semifinals, I'm going to take, I hate to say it, but I'm going to take the Thunder to beat the Nuggets. I'm not going to give the games. I'm not going to leak that out yet. We'll wait till we actually see those. So I'm going to take the Thunder to make it to the conference finals to play against the Los Angeles Lakers in the conference finals. And I have the Oklahoma City Thunder making it to their first finals appearance since 2012.
Interesting. I'm going to take Thunder versus Clippers, man. Give me the Clippers. I love where they're at right now. I predicted it on our hot takes. I said one of the Cavaliers or Thunder are going to lose early in the playoffs, maybe even both of them. We'll see, but I will take this upset. I will take the Clippers, who are probably going to come into this series pretty heavily underdogs. Give me the Clippers and give me the Warriors. Clippers-Warriors conference finals. Can the Clippers exercise some demons versus a team that I think's made the right acquisition? They went and got the right guy. Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy. Another conference finals appearance from out of the play-in. Give me the Warriors to knock off the Lakers. Bouncing over to the Eastern Conference now. Give me the Cavs in a sweep. Give me the Bucks to knock off the Pacers in 6 games. Give me the Knicks over the Pistons in 5, and I'll take Boston sweeping Orlando in 4. That'll lead me to Cavaliers versus Bucks. Give me the Bucks. I love it. I love what Giannis Antetokounmpo has done. down the stretch, they're getting Damian Lillard back at the right time. I said it in the hot takes, and I repeated it when I said the Thunder. These two teams are getting beat. They've strained and strained and strained all regular season to put up as many wins as possible. I don't trust them yet. I don't trust Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs. I haven't seen enough from the Thunder surrounding core. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to have a great playoff run, but I don't know if the rest of the roster is ready to be there with them. Same with the Cavaliers. I actually think the Cavaliers are more primed to make a deeper run than what the Thunder are, just based on they've got the easier conference, and they've got a team that I think's got a little bit more veteranship, guys that have kind of been around. But I'll take the Bucks to pull off that upset too. Give me the Celtics to knock off the Knicks. I'm a big fan of the Knicks roster. I love the Brunson Towns kind of dynamic. I love Anunoby and Bridges. That's a fun roster to me. But the Celtics are too talented top to bottom. They've got 6th man of the year. They've got Jason Tatum, who doesn't get enough credit but should be in MVP conversations every year. I'll take them. Give me the Boston Celtics to beat the Cavaliers. And give me the Los Angeles Clippers to beat the Warriors. Los Angeles Clippers, Boston Celtics final. And I'm going to go with it. Give me the Boston Celtics to repeat. I want to take the Clippers so bad. I've been riding that wave, but I'll take Boston to kind of transition this to the first repeat champion we've seen in quite some time since the Warriors did it not too long ago.
Very intriguing. I would love to see a Clippers Celtics. That would be amazing to see. I think that it would honestly be pretty good for the ratings as well. A lot of stars there. I'm going to start with Cleveland. I mentioned I got them sweeping, whether if it's Miami or Atlanta. I got Milwaukee beating the Indiana Pacers in 6. We're on the same page there. We we have the Knicks against the Pistons in 5. I'm with you there. Celtics sweep. So we got the same semifinal matchup between the Cavs and the Bucks. I think the Cavs just have too much offense, and we'll get into that later. I'm going to take the Cavs, and I'm going to take the Celtics for all the reasons that you pointed out. And we've been penciled this in for many months now for this Cavaliers-Celtics matchup. We've seen the Cavs go out and make moves at the deadline to really center themselves up for this heavyweight battle, and they're going to have home court. But I think I'm going to take the Celtics to beat the Cavs, even though they're going to have to go on the road to Cleveland. But give me the Celtics for a Celtics-Thunder matchup. And I just think the Celtics have way too much on offense. They're going to get up way too many threes. And the Thunder have swept the Celtics this year, so that is interesting. But give me Jason Tatum, give me Jaylen Brown to repeat, and we're going to see the first repeat champion since Golden State and the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, so we both take the Boston Celtics to kind of get it done. Obviously a little bit different in the Western Conference. The Western Conference playoffs is going to be really intriguing this year, and we've talked ad nauseum about that conference. That's what we're looking for, and we have differencing of opinion. My Western Conference champions knocked out in the first round in your bracket, so it's going to be really fun to watch down the stretch. Again, we'll be back to kind of recap some of the first few games of these series in next week's episode. We're looking forward to it. Again, like always, please reach out to us with suggestions on the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. This was our longest episode by far. Just so much ball to get into this time of year, and we're going to dive into it all. We enjoy talking about it all. We watch pretty much all these games every night. So, again, look us up on social medias. Comment under the post that we're going to make about our playoff predictions. Give us your playoff predictions, and continue to support this podcast wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Reach out to us on social media, YouTube. You can reach out to us in the comments, Instagram, Twitter at the State Line Fast Break Pod. We thank you guys for listening. Go Clippers.